Welcome to the Flora Sage Podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Today's episode is all about learning how to create a set of standards that will simplify even the most chaotic life. Now, we're going to split this episode into two parts. The first one is going to be just an overview, and the second part, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into standards and the results of creating standards in your life. So, what are standards? Standards are nothing more than just a set of behaviors that you've decided to perform on a daily basis. Some people call these habits. Habits, standards, whatever it is that you want to call them. I think a habit doesn't have the oomph that a standard does. And you'll see why in today's episode. Now, these behaviors that you do are built on the expectations that you have for yourself in a variety of situations based on your priorities and the vision that you have for your life. So, we're going to talk about creating your vision in just a little bit, but this is really, really big because when you can look at standards and recognize that your standards are tied in with your personal values, and your personal values impact every single thing, every single aspect of your life. If you've ever studied great leaders or really highly successful people, you'll see that most of these people have a high level of standards. They're very clear about their priorities. They're very clear about what they will and what they will not tolerate and accept in their life. So how do you know what standards you already have? If you're driving, just do this in your head. If you're not driving, grab your journal or your notebook and we're gonna have some fun because I got a couple questions for you that I think are going to be very eye-opening for you. The first question is, what priorities, behaviors, and beliefs do you currently have that determine your daily habits and routine? What priorities, behaviors, beliefs, and values do you currently have that determine your daily habits and routine? The second thing is, what story do you currently have about yourself that plays into or that plays a factor in your answers from number one? So what identity or story do you currently have about yourself that plays a factor in the answers from number one? Now, question number three, what are you putting up with or what are you tolerating in your life? What are you putting up with or what are you tolerating in your life? So I want to share something with you. So question number two is huge. So what identity or story do you currently have about yourself that plays a factor in the answers from number one? I'm sure you've heard the story in the self-help community about the two brothers. Two brothers grew up in a household with alcoholic and addict parents. So one was addicted to drugs, one was an alcoholic. One brother grew up to be highly, highly successful. Never used drugs a day in his life, never drank, highly, highly successful. The other brother, down and out, couldn't hold down a job, addicted to all kinds of things. And someone interviews the two brothers and asks them each the same question. Why are you the way that you are? They both said the same answer. My parents were addicts and alcoholics. So you can choose to play the victim or you can choose to play the victor in your life. Everyone has adverse situations happen as we grow up, and the story that we tell ourselves is huge. And I am going to do a podcast about the stories that we tell ourselves and the power of those stories later on. But your honesty to that answer, well, to all these answers, is key. So seeing the answers to these questions are really going to help you to see what your current set of personal standards are. So very quickly, we're going to compare and contrast people that have low standards and people that have high standards in their life. Now, recognize that you could be someone that has high standards, but for a moment, just for a time, you are in a space or a place of having low standards. This could be because you're in a challenging relationship. This could be because you are down and out for just a time. This could be because of any various number of circumstances that just happen to fall back to back to back, and you're like, oh my gosh, really? Ugh. So there are some times where you are someone who normally has high standards, but for a moment is in a space that appears as though you are someone that has low standards. So if you get triggered when hearing these lists, no, this is not a personal attack on you. This is just facts that experts have compiled that basically are people that have low standards typically have these types of traits. People that have high standards have these types of traits. If you're triggered, that's actually a good thing, because that tells you identify as something that bothers you, and perfect, because that's something for you to lean into, get curious about, and take action on. So good. Okay, so here's the 2 lists. Here are some typical traits of people that have low standards. They tend to tolerate things that they shouldn't. They tend to suffer from low self-esteem and low self-respect. They typically lack self-confidence, and they lack belief in themselves that they can get out of the situation that they're in. They tend to have self-sabotaging habits that damage certain areas of their life, like health or career or relationships. They tend to lack strong willpower and repeatedly break the promises that they've made to themselves. They tend to accept laziness, procrastination, and disorganization as a general part of their life. They usually don't live up to their full potential because they feel like, well, what's the point? Like, I'm here. This is just how life is. They tend to have no problem being with kind of the middle ground, kind of being in the mediocre, average, blend in with the crowd type of environment. And they usually tend to have not a very good drive. They tend to have very little ambition to want more than what they already have. Now let's look at some typical traits of people that have high standards. So these people tend to have very high levels of self-esteem and self-confidence. They tend to believe in themselves, come hell or high water, they're going to succeed in whatever it is that they put their mind to. And they know that if they fail, they're not failing, they're actually just learning. Oh, okay, well, that didn't work. All right, let me try something else and see what does work. They have very clearly defined goals. They have very clearly defined priorities. They tend to accept nothing less than the best from themselves. They usually tend to not tolerate negative or toxic people or habits or things in their life and their environment. And they know their worth, and again, will not accept below that. They typically have abundance mindsets. They usually are resilient and bounce back after failure or after something does not work out the way that they thought it would. They really tend to push themselves to do better and to be better. They tend to implement routines and habits that really are designed to boost their success and give them what they want by default. They tend to work smarter, not harder, but they're willing to put in as many hours as it takes in order to get the job done. They have a trusted set of advisors. They have a coach. They have a mentor. They have someone that they can lean on, and they also are that for other people as well. So they are willing to take on that mentorship role with other people. They're also very results oriented. They typically tend to make decisions quickly. They usually stand out from the crowd, and they always expect to be treated well by the people in their life. So hearing these two lists, what did that bring up for you? Did that trigger you in hearing the low standards set of traits and hearing the high standard set of traits? I mean, a lot of people, when they're hearing this for the first time, they're like, oh shit, like I have a mixture of both. What does that mean? That just means you have a mixture of both. That's it. So how can you begin to create a set of standards for your life? Well, there's a few different strategies that I'm going to share with you here today. The first one is to create a vision for your life. This is truly your guiding force. So one of the things that I talk about in the 1 Degree Shift book is I talk about where are you at and where do you want to be. You have to get honest with yourself about both of those. So where you're at, where are you at? Are you in a shitty relationship, or are you in the best relationship of your life? Are you in the job of your dreams, or are you in a job that is literally just killing you and is sucking away all of your vital life force? Or is it kind of somewhere in between? How are your finances? How is your relationship with your siblings, your parents, your caregivers, your friends? Look at all of these things, because the thing is that when you get really honest about where you're at, do you overeat? Do you undereat? Do you drink too much? Do you not drink any water? There's so many things that we do in our life that give us the results that we have that make us wonder, what the hell am I doing wrong? Well, again, these are the set of standards that you have. So if your set of standards is, well, my standard is that I come home from work and have 3 glasses of wine, have pizza, and watch Netflix until I fall asleep on the couch, and then I wonder why I ache so bad and why I'm 20 pounds overweight. Well, that's because you have that standard of, my standard is I eat fast food and drink wine and fall asleep on the couch. Whereas someone else who their standard is, I want to feel strong in my body and I want to feel energetic. I want to have the energy that is needed for the life that I want. And so they come home, they eat a meal, or maybe they do intermittent fasting in the evening, and maybe they want to watch Netflix, but so they jump on their stationary bike, they ride their stationary bike while they're drinking water, sitting next to their partner, watching Netflix for an hour. They get off the bike, they take a shower, they chill for just a little bit on TikTok, let's just say, and then they go to bed, and they feel great in the morning. They wake up, they feel energized, versus being hungover and feeling like crap, feeling bloated from the pizza. So if you're one of those special people that can eat pizza and not feel bloated, yay! I envy you. But in any case, so getting really honest about where you're at is key. But the second part, and this is part of where standards come in, is what is your dream life? Is your dream life to run a marathon? Is your dream life to live in an RV and follow the sun around the country? Is your dream life to live in an apartment in Manhattan? Is your dream life to live in suburbia in the middle of the country with 3 cats, a dog, and a little mini pig? Like whatever your dream life looks like, make sure that it's your dream life and it's not somebody else's dream life. Way back in the day, and I talk about this in my book, if you would have asked me what my dream life was, it would be, I want to live on a big plot of land. I want to have this big house with all the cars and the boats and all the things. But my energy would have dropped. And the reason being is because that feels heavy. I don't want a big house. I don't want the big yard. I don't want all the bells and whistles. First of all, I don't want to clean it. I don't want to maintain it. That doesn't feel good. What feels good for me is having a very small house with lots of windows, very light and airy. I'm kind of a minimalist, very maintenance-free yard, because I love adventure. I love traveling. So I don't want to have a big property that I want to maintain or that I need to maintain. In fact, living in an RV is heaven. Like, that is my dream life, is living in an RV, and that is a future goal that I'm currently working towards. So So this dream life that you've had in your brain, and typically most of us have had these little dream life visions since we were a kid, is that actually your dream life? Or is it like what you think you should want? Or what your parents want for you? Or what your spouse or partner wants for you? This is your exercise to say, what do I want? What is my dream life? What would feel really exciting? Is it being a nomad? Is it living in a mansion in Malibu with 3 cars, a butler, and a chef? You pick it. This is your life. And so often we just take what we're given and we have what we think we should have. We have the house, the cars, we've got the yard, we got the dogs, we've got the kids, we've got the job. And most people are miserable because they just have fallen into what we think we should have instead of actually sculpting and consciously creating the life that we really want. And creating a set of standards will help you get that life that you want, because when you have those standards and you have that dream vision, those standards are literally going to give you your dream life by default. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So what is your dream life? Get crystal clear on that dream life. Get very crystal clear. When you create this, be very specific, very descriptive, have very big emotions with it. Like, how do you feel when you wake up and you are in this perfect house or in this perfect dwelling? I think I'm actually going to do a separate podcast about creating your dream life vision, because I think it is so important, and so many people are just kind of like, well, I want this or I want that. And it's okay to be specific. Sometimes that freaks people out, getting too specific, but I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely okay. Okay. So once you get clear, I kind of know I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but this is so important, getting really clear about where you are and where you want to be. And so the next thing is, what are your standards in each area of your life? Right now, we're looking at how you can start to create a set of standards in your life. Part of that is figuring out where you're at so that you can see what your standards have been, and then where you want to be, which is your dream life. So the next thing is, okay, so let's look at each area of your life so that you can identify what your current standards are. So for example, if you're always late, that is a time management standard. If you have poor physical health, that can mean that you eat too much fast food. And so look at that current standard around your health and your diet. So spending a few minutes reflecting on the main areas of your life and what your current results are going to tell you what your current standards are for you. So this is going to take a little bit of doing, just kind of sitting and reflecting on, okay, so let me look at my relationship. Do I have a healthy relationship or is it a shitty relationship? Let me look at my finances. Do I have really good finances? Am I in debt? Do I have a savings account? Do I have mutual funds? Do I have investment accounts? Do I have a 401k? Or am I living paycheck to paycheck? And that will tell you what your financial standards are. Look at your health. Are you on medications? If you're on medications, is it for things that was preventable through diet and exercise? Are you on medications for chronic things? Are you on what do you take? Do you take supplements every day? Look at your physical well-being. Do you feel tired all the time? Are you depressed? Do you have anxiety? Do you have any other physical ailments? What is your mental health state right now? Look at the state of your home. Is it cluttered? Is it clean? Is it tidy? Is it pristine? Whatever it is, look at your car, look at your vehicle. Is it cluttered full of stuff or is it clean? Look at your social media, look at your email. How many emails do you have? I had a client tell me recently that she just decluttered 80,000 emails from her email list. So to her, at that point in her life, or whatever, she has 6 businesses, so she's got a lot on her plate, but she did not set a standard of having inbox 0 or checking or making a priority of checking emails. That happens. So try not to judge yourself when you're looking at your results. But what I do want you to do is ask yourself, when you recognize what these standards have been in your life, are you happy with them? Are you happy with them? Are you happy with everything that you have in your life? Because what you have right now is a result of your past thoughts and actions, aka the standards that you've had for yourself up until this point. Now, people can set all the big goals that they like, but if they don't raise their standards to meet them, it's pointless. So be real and raw and honest with yourself during this process, and understand that your brain does have neural pathways that have been programmed to do what we want them to do. Now, these are, it's nothing more than a series of synapses, automatic firing of the things that we have habitually done. Now, there is a thing called neuroplasticity, which means that we can rewire our brain and change the way that our brain fires, which in turn changes our behaviors, which then changes our results, which happens when we decide to change what we're doing, which is caused from us shifting our standards, which is awesome. So that brings us to deciding what your higher standards are going to be in each area of your life. So now that you know what your current standards are and how they're impacting your life, how would you like to rewrite the script of your life? This is big. What would your new values or beliefs and behaviors look like in your ideal life? So I want us to think about the examples from earlier where I talked about being late. So let's just say that you're chronically late, you're kind of known for being late, but you really don't like that because it really stresses you out. So to create a new standard for yourself of being early, what you can do is just say, okay, so if I know that my appointment is at 2:30, I'm just going to put that it's at 2 o'clock. And so then that will give you the opportunity to basically have that cushion, that 30-minute cushion, so that you can start to show up on time or early. Let's just say that you want to lose 5 pounds or that you want to start eating better. And typically you are always just overeating or having seconds. And so one of the things that you can do is just make a pact with yourself, or just say, I don't eat seconds. I eat slowly for my first round of food. And because I eat slowly and mindfully, I'm satisfied with that first plate of food. And at first it is going to feel weird because you are changing what you're doing. You are rewiring your brain. You're rewiring your habits. But when you start to implement these new higher standards and you start to just say to yourself, I don't have seconds, or I'm always early. Yes, at first, is it true? No. But again, you can plan to make it be true. You can start to raise your standards and raise the bar for yourself so that you can start to have that life that you want. Allowing yourself to recognize that this is your life and you truly do need to start to implement new habits or new rules in your life, or AKA a new set of standards, so that you truly can have this life by default. Because again, if you get up and you walk 30 minutes every single day, by the end of 30 days or 6 months, you're going to start to feel really good. People are probably going to start to see that you are more energetic. Maybe you've lost weight. They're going to say, oh my God, like, what are you doing? It's because you've set that standard for yourself of, I walk 30 minutes every single day, or I do a HIIT workout, or I don't have seconds. It's like these, and they're kind of absolutes, but giving yourself permission to create this standard allows you to be the potential that you know you have. Do you know what I mean? Because this is huge. So another thing that I want you to think about when creating your set of standards is, what is your why? What is your why? What is the phase of life that you're in, and what are your priorities? When creating your new set of standards, it's so important to know your why. Ask yourself, okay, why do you want to raise your standards in these areas of your life? What are the reasons behind improving these areas of your life? Is it for your kids? Is it so that you can finally move out of your parents' home? Is it so that you can feel better about yourself? Is it so that you can travel the world? Is it so that you can become a successful entrepreneur? Is it so that you can win the heart of the man or woman of your dreams? This is a critical part, because if your reasons for setting higher personal standards are not strong enough, it's likely that you're going to give up when the storms come through and the going gets tough. So to build your resiliency, you have to have strong reasons of why you're doing what you're doing. And it's a solid way and surefire way to make sure that you follow through. Another thing, like I said, is what phase of life are you in? Are you an empty nester? Are you raising your kids? Are you building a business? Do you have a toddler, a teen, a college age kid? Do you have an adult kid living with you? That's going to impact your dream life. That's going to impact your standards. What are your priorities? What are your priorities? We talked about this in an earlier episode. I might actually do another episode because I've had so much demand for it. I've gotten many emails asking if we could redo that one. Just simply because it is such a huge aha moment for people. For those of you who have my book, it's in chapter 3. It's the 3-list exercise in the beginning of chapter 3 in the 1 degree shift. The next thing that I'm going to share with you are some routines that you can implement to help you start to shift your standards. Your dream life is not going to fall into your lap. It does take a lot of work, but when you apply the 1 degree shift method, it is doable. It is doable. So to bring your dream into reality, it's so important to develop these rituals and these routines that reflect your new higher standards for yourself, that will by default get you closer to your goal every single day. Some of these, and we talked about this just a little bit ago, is waking up every morning at 5 a.m. to work on a project, maybe before work. Maybe doing powerful affirmations before you go to bed so that you can start to sleep in kind of a higher vibe state. Maybe if you do have low self-esteem or negative thinking, maybe it's meditate or listening to podcasts while you're doing chores or heading to work. Maybe it's watching inspirational videos daily. Maybe it is crafting a morning or an evening ritual or routine so that you can start and end your day without the chaos, allowing yourself to recognize that your habits, your goals, your standards give you your life by default. They truly, truly do. I want you to think about the most successful person that you know. Do they have high standards? Do they settle for less than, or do they expect the best? Chances are they have pretty high standards of themselves and the people in their life. And chances are they have habits or goals, aka also standards, that support the life that they're living. They didn't get successful like that on accident. They have a clear vision, that dream vision of their life, and they put in these tiny daily actions. Sometimes they're big actions, but typically these small actions that lead them to success, that give them their dream life by default through these set of standards. So I want to leave you today with 2 quotes. The first one is from Hans Hofmann. And Hans Hofmann says, "The ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak." I'm going to repeat that. The ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak. The second one is by Nancy Zimpher. Make no apologies for setting high standards. I love it. In the next episode, we're going to look at a case study around standards and simplifying your life to help illustrate how powerful these practices can be in your life and how quickly you can begin to see results. I'm also going to share with you a book about standards and how this book literally changed my life. Now remember, the 1 degree shift is all about taking one small action every single day. So today, I would encourage you to give yourself permission to commit to taking one baby action, one baby step today, tomorrow, the next day. That's going to bring you closer to your dream life. It's going to bring you closer to where you ultimately see yourself. If you're not already a member inside of the 1 degree shift tribe, I would love to have you in there and support you and coach you through this process. Our members are in there every single day working on their stuff, getting happier and more excited about their life, and really discovering the simplicity of lasting change and the power of what a 1 degree shift can truly, truly make for your future. I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. The links mentioned in today's podcast episode are in the show notes.